I thank the gentleman, Chairman Comer, for yielding, and I'm grateful that today we are considering my common sense resolution, H.J. Res. 42, which would block the implementation of the D.C. City Council's so-called Comprehensive Policing and Justice Reform Emergency Amendment Act of 2022. H.J. Res. 42 is essential to both increase public safety and combat rising crime in our nation's capital city. For far too long, Washington, D.C., which is supposed to represent a beacon of freedom, patriotism, and prosperity for all America, has been overrun by violent criminals. As millions of people visit D.C. every year, it's imperative that our nation's capital is safe for all residents and visitors. Yet, unfortunately, this simply is not the case. While many local Democrat officials continue to bury their heads in the sand, such as D.C. Council Chairman Phil Mendelson, who insists there is, quote, not a crime crisis in Washington, D.C., the data reveals the inescapable reality of an out-of-control crime wave taking over our city. According to the Metro Police Department, so far this year, there have already been more than 60 homicides, nearly 50 cases of sexual abuse, 2,000 incidents of motor vehicle theft, over 750 robberies, 300 burglaries, and more than 2,200 cases of theft from auto. The list goes on and on. In fact, crime overall is up 25% from last year. These dangers are widely known across the district, but especially here on Capitol Hill. In the last few months, both a congressional reporter and a member of Congress had wheels stolen off their cars. One of Senator Rand Paul's staffers was horrifically stabbed in broad daylight, and a member of this body, Congresswoman Angie Craig, was violently assaulted in the elevator in her apartment building. Crime is clearly out of control in our nation's capital, and who is charged with protecting the people and streets of Washington? The Metropolitan Police Department. Yet instead of providing MPD officers with the resources, support, and political backing required to combat crime, the D.C. Council is determined to kneecap MPD's capabilities, subsequently emboldening dangerous criminals. The Council's anti-police law creates undue burdens on the MPD. A few of these policies include limiting physical contact with the suspect. They claim it bans chokeholds, but chokeholds have been banned for decades, since 1985. So this ban is really just a cheap attempt at a political talking point. But it goes further, placing liability on officers just for touching near the neck area without any intent whatsoever. Additionally, this legislation sets MPD officers up for failure by prohibiting officers from viewing body-worn camera footage when writing initial reports. This reform also requires the mayor to publicly release the names of officers in all instances of serious use of force, allowing radical activists to target officers and their families. The D.C. Council's bill strips the D.C. Police Union of collective bargaining rights and repeals a D.C. Code provision that requires the Metro Police Department to commence disciplinary action against an officer within 90 business days. This means that officers could be placed under investigation for an indefinite period of time, which strips their right to timely due process of law. Notably, since this legislation has been in effect under emergency legislative powers since 2020, the MPD has lost almost 1,200 officers and currently operates at a 500 officer deficit. Officers are expressing their great concern with their feet and are leaving faster than they can be replaced. The D.C. police force has been depleted to an astonishing half-century low. Undoubtedly, the D.C. Council's misguided legislation has driven out men and women in blue who protect us, while disincentivizing individuals to join the force. And honestly, who can blame them? Who wants to put their life on the line in a city where local officials continue to put criminals first and police officers last? Back in 2020, Mayor Bowser allowed a painted message, "Defund the police," to remain on a street near the White House for more than 2 months. Clearly, D.C. officials have made their message abundantly clear, and they continue to fail the men and women of the Metropolitan Police Department. In response, we must be united in supporting MPD officers and restoring law and order in Washington by blocking the D.C. Council's legislation. We have both the authority and the responsibility to do so. Just as we repealed the Council's Soft on Crime revised Criminal Code Act just a few weeks ago, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 of the Constitution grants Congress exclusive legislative authority over Washington's affairs. It's time to effectively exercise this power yet again, to ensure our nation's capital city is safe for all Americans. After all, as the heart of our republic, Washington, D.C. should be the safest city in this great nation. Public safety is not a partisan issue. It's a common sense one. I urge all of my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to support my resolution, H.J. Res. 42, so we can take the necessary steps to turn our crime-ridden capital city into a safe, free, and prosperous city.